Welcome back to another edition of Live SEO Support with the two sexiest men in SEO. And that just goes to show you, you can really just put anything on the internet with, Nick's rankings right there because, let's be real.
Like literally, it's an easy thing to do, and it's a parlor trick.
What's the keyword? What's the keyword?
Sexiest man in digital marketing, and then I think I have some Austin-based SERPs too. But basically,
not seeing you here.
I'm number one, dude. Nick Altamore. Look right there.
Oh, I'm stupid. Okay.
But these are like, that's that's literally a Fiverr post article. I probably paid like, I don't know, under $40. It's horrible. It doesn't have a picture of me or anything. It mentions my name like maybe one or two times, and then it's just random, like if you click on it. But it just goes to show, it's a fun parlor trick to find a SERP that allows you access so easily, because the fact of the matter is, if you've been in SEO for a long period of time, parlor tricks, so to speak, like this aren't very impressive, right? But to the average person that really doesn't understand how Google works at all, or how SERPs might influence the outcomes of any number of things, to them it's very interesting. So let's say you're a smaller SEO, or you're somebody just getting started, little things like this can add up to your credibility. So little lesson in having fun. And then Chris and I before had fun trying to go after one another's SERPs too. So there's all sorts of little things.
I needed to fight back against you, you kept trying to like take up more positions on my SERP. I don't even want to look at it now.
I had how Nick Altamore was Chris Gige's father, and it would pop up for his name SERPs.
I think the last time I looked, it was actually. I think the last time I looked, it was actually off, or had gone like way down.
Yeah, it might be, huh?
Yeah, one second. Oh no, it's still on page 1.
There it is, right there. Yeah.
Dang.
See, look at that.
Dang. I'll put this over here, I guess.
But there's all sorts of things.
Yeah, so it was up higher. It was definitely up higher, but now it's down. Down here somewhere. I need to fight back against that and push it off. And
that's that goes to show another thing, how easily that your SERPs can be manipulated if you haven't guarded them well. As an SEO, you should go ahead and be working on your own SERPs, as typically you're going to be some sort of brand or face of your company, right? So worth taking a look at that as well. It's a sort of reputation management kind of thing, but also very easy. You can rank all sorts of things for your own name, and preferably you're the one that's ranking those things, not the other way around.
Yeah. So for anyone following along that kind of lost what we're talking about right here, so I've got a really unique name. So when you type in my name, pretty much it's just my SERP, right? And it's funny, sport, Jesus. Anyway, so what, as far as like reputation management goes or whatever, or if you just want to like rank for something, Nick basically just put up a little post on his website, I believe, on nickaltamore.com, and just did the on page and everything correctly. And maybe shot a link at it or something.
I don't even know if I used the link or not.
The thing
most likely not, because this kind of stuff is just fun. Like, I'm not going to spend money on it, right? But this site, I guess, has links. None that I paid for.
But yeah, so that basically, he took up a page on page 1. He took up a spot on page 1 for my name with something, embarrassing or whatever, just kind of funny.
Didn't your dad comment on it?
Yeah, he looked you up. Yeah. My dad saw it. I don't know what he was looking for. I guess he just type in stuff into Google one day. I guess it's like a boomer thing to do. Type in your kid's name on Google and see what comes up.
See what pops up.
But yeah,
Internet
so
sleuths.
if I was actually really worried about this, what I would do is, look at all these other things that are popping up here. I got my website, my Facebook page, my Instagram, my Twitter, my author page on Sir Links a lot, my Quora profile. This is just a profile. When you talk about profile links, profile on different social media sites. And there's a couple other things from when I lived in Seoul and stuff. But yeah, like, if I was really serious about wanting to push this thing off, I'd probably just look at it a couple other profiles, or maybe even just buy like a cheap guest post like you had done before or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe, just basically do some like parasite SEO, like use a Web 2.0 or something, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it'd be with how easy it was for him to get that there, it'd be very easy for me to push it off as well, right?
Well, I don't know. Are you challenging my position in the SERPs, Christopher?
I'm not challenging it because I just don't care enough about it. But
If
I did, if I was an actual worried about my like brand reputation, if this was like Chris Gigis is the worst SEO in the world,
Okay,
and something like that.
So let's leave it up to fate. All right, viewers.
Fate.
Like, comment, subscribe, and if you want to see me take up every position in Chris Gigis SERPs,
Hey,
get
if
in
you
our
if you do
group
that, if you do that, it
and
means
say,
war. If you do that, it
take
means
it
war.
over. Take it all over.
If you do that, it means war. I'm coming
It
after
could be
Nick
fun. That
Altamont
could be a pretty fun case study. Reputation bashing.
for sure. Which
We
isn't
wouldn't
something we
advise you
actually
ever
condone.
don't do that to somebody that a competitor or something like that. You can get sued for libel and all kinds of things. Chris and I, we're friends and we have a working partnership, so we can abuse each other at free will.
Because that's just what good working partnerships are, right?
Yeah.
They're about the abuse that you put up with.
Chris Gigis has once punched me in the face.
Once?
Yeah, maybe more actually. I don't know.
Oh,
well, out of anger.
I don't think I ever actually. Maybe I tried to hit you out of anger.
I don't know if
I
you
think you
actually
ducked
connected,
it.
but in soul. We've been
Anyway.
friends a long time, guys.
Anyway,
And girls.
but yeah, as far as what you were saying as well, as far as like parlor tricks and like ranking, like easy stuff, it's kind of something cool, or you can do to show like clients or whatever. I think something
sure.
I did before, it's probably long gone by now, when I was doing some agency stuff, is I ranked best SEO in the universe.
Nice. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I didn't
And that's
want
the thing,
to
there's like a
spend time
plethora.
on it, and it was just like something I just saw it was like easy pickings or whatever. I just put up a page and it just pretty much ranked instantly,
Boom.
number one.
Nice.
But yeah, you can do kind of stuff like that to just fun stuff to kind of throw in to show prospective clients or whatnot. I don't know. It's just fun stuff you
It's
can do.
practice, SEO's kind of a lifestyle as far as like career goes. So the more you interact with the SERPs, the more you play around with them and have fun doing it, more than likely, the more you're going to learn and the better SEO you're going to be in the long run,
For
in my
sure.
opinion.
All right.
Let's get started. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you enjoy the show. Join us in SEO Roundtable on Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook is the place to be. I think we normally have a lot
Email
more
list.
viewers on YouTube recently, but both are fine. But the Facebook group definitely has got more stuff every single day, and you can do stuff like win our monthly backlink prizes and whatnot.
Oh man, I feel like we should. Last month's winner, and sorry to keep going, but last month's winner was
One of last
Kyle.
month's winners.
Yeah, one of last. Well, Kyle, he went above and beyond. He made us a commercial. Did we go over that last episode? We did show it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I
Here,
love that
we can maybe pop it up again real quick if you want. I'm too lazy. I don't feel like doing that right now.
It's fine. Let's go. Yeah. I think we already did it. I for some reason I'm off a week.
All right, yeah. Let's go ahead and we'll start getting the questions. You guys know how it works. If you don't know how it works, go and just drop your questions in the Facebook chat or the YouTube chat, and we'll get to you priority in order that we receive them in. Otherwise, we've got kind of a backlog going on that people asked, not live, just questions from our group that we might want to go into more detail, stuff like that. So yeah, drop your questions, we'll get to you. What's going on, Andrew? Not really an SEO question, but something more about our services, but that's all right. For your guys' managed link building campaigns, do you use your PBN or PBN rental links? So yeah, that's pretty much up to the client, right? On our applications, we ask if there's any types of links that you are not okay with, and the reason we ask that is pretty much for PBN links because some people are not
Yeah.
okay with PBN links. Um, so if you don't want to use PBN links, it's actually, it's fine. You can tell us any kind of link that we sell that you don't want us to use, and we just won't use them. Um, but yeah, as far as rentals go, I don't think we've ever used a rental in the managed link building. When we do use PBN links, and we actually use them pretty rarely in MLB,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
but when we do use PBN links in MLB, it's always the one-off payments because yeah, we just don't like it gets too confusing with the rentals. MLBs is a month by month. Our rentals are every 3 month payments, and usually we like to say that in MLB, all the links we build for you are permanent, right? Because a lot of people they say, well, hey, what if I only do MLB for 2 months and then I quit? Are all my links going to disappear? And so the answer is no. Everything we build is permanent. But if we're using rentals, then some of them would disappear. So we just kind of like to stay away from that in general.
Well, I mean, they won't disappear. They'll do the same thing
Well,
right
yeah,
after it's
it would slide
canceled. It'll
off
just
of.
roll to an inner
That's
page.
true.
Yeah. We never delete backlinks unless it was specifically asked or something goes haywire. Yeah, but yeah, in
Yeah, that's something
normal
cool
cases, we wouldn't do
about
that.
our PBN. If anyone's actually interested in our PBN links, something kind of cool about our PBN is that if you're paying for a rental on our network and you stop paying for the rental, that most networks will just delete your link because you're not paying anymore. But we don't delete any links. We just let it eventually slide off to live on an inner page only instead of being on the homepage blog roll. Um,
And so that adds an element of being natural as well,
yeah.
right? Which is most people are not deleting a bunch of links before they roll off to inner pages. So yeah, that's the way we do things. I think something else that's kind of worth talking about based on this question is, you know, if you're unsure and you want to use some PBN links, then you might be asking the question, should I use rentals or should I use one-offs? So what you need to consider is the difference, which is rentals are going to live on the whole homepage until you cancel them. So if you want, you know, 2 to 3 of those or like a small percentage of your site to have permanent homepage links, which is like something that naturally occurs, would be like paid placements on homepages of particular websites, ad space, etc. Only these are going to be contextual. So if you wanted a handful of links to continually be pointing at the homepage, then you could always do a bit of both, right? The idea is for some of them to roll off and look like that normal blog roll kind of website, which is the most naturally occurring type of website online. And then you've got the others that stand, a little bit longer. So you can kind of use them both. But typically, I like the ones that roll, if I'm being honest. Nothing against rentals, but yeah, you can, especially on a network like ours, which is really large, and I probably shouldn't even be saying this because it's sort of like a hack to using our PBN.
No, don't.
You get a lot of, you get a lot of homepage exposure just using the rolling links as well, mainly
Yeah.
because our PBN is so massive, right? And so with the way that we've designed things, we know when the last post went up on a particular PBN, and so we're rolling across the entire network. This is part of the reason that you can't request, specific niches or anything when it comes to the PBN. Although you'll come to find that if you use our PBN sparingly, you get a pretty, typically it's pretty well niched out as far as the overall picture of the PBN goes.
Yeah, you
But
definitely get some
yeah,
good value off of the rolling links, the one-time links. But yeah, if you want that permanent homepage placement, got to do the rentals, at least
right.
to guarantee it at least.
And on like another note, I didn't want to bash our rentals. There is value there as well, and especially if you find if you get the right rental for the particular SERP you're going after, and it adds a lot of value. The rental can really keep you solidified in that position as well. So sometimes it's worth noting either way.
All right, let's get going on. I think we got some questions from Travis here. This is a pretty interesting one. Go ahead and get it all in here. So I think this will be a Nick question. A lawyer contacted me to take my rank and rent site down. Do you recommend to register the DBA to avoid this for future sites? My URL was using his client DBA, so I got a cease and desist letter.
Yeah, right. If you want to be doing things the proper way, then absolutely, you're going to get a DBA for every website you make, as essentially the website, right, is a rebrand of whatever, corporation owns them, or, et cetera. So legally speaking, and the proper way to do things, if you're a real business, is to have the DBA for each particular one. That's also going to insulate you when stuff like this happens, right? Because you essentially stole somebody's brand. How able they'll be to get that website taken down, it might be very difficult, but it's not something that I'd want to mess with. I mean, like, that's essentially setting yourself up for getting tangled into something that's not worthwhile to get tangled into. So yeah, technically you need to have the DBA. So what can you do at this point? I guess, thinking future. Well, in my opinion, unless you want to go get a lawyer and try and fight this, which wouldn't be worthwhile, then pick a new URL to 3012, rebrand the whole thing, 301 it so that you're not missing out on that much, and then work on ranking that site. For that particular site, since you've already gone down this rabbit hole once, probably worthwhile to get the DBA before jumping into it. Now, mind you, when you do something like that, you've got to be very certain that the DBA cost and everything going into managing that is going to be worthwhile as far as getting paid off the leads, etc.
Well,
But
it
then at
sounds
least you'd be insulated.
Yeah, it sounds like he went about it the right way because he's got the rank and rent site it ranked. So now he has kind of an idea. Okay, it's ranked. Maybe he has an idea of how much money it's making or will be able to make them. And now he can cross his T's and dot his I's, so to speak.
Now, hypothetical, I don't think they'd be able to go after you if you had a 301 from that person's DBA, right? Because then it would be rebranded. But honestly, that'd be something you have to ask a lawyer, because I don't know the ins and outs of that.
I don't really know the ins and outs of this stuff. So I've actually got a legitimate question
The internet's
for you,
kind of
Nick.
weird.
So like the DBAs and using a brand name and cease and desist letters and all that. So, the business when you register for a DBA or whatever, it goes like state by state. Like how much do you think this is just
Yeah.
some pissed off person who lost their domain trying to scare them? Like how
Well,
is there
and
actually
maybe
like
it's
teeth
not
behind
even,
this?
maybe they didn't even lose the domain or anything. Maybe this is just like, how they handle business. A lot of times, the niche is going to be dictated by whoever's got, whoever's wielding the most power. And a lot of times, these small businesses, these small local businesses make enough money and have the right connections to have this kind of insulation, right? Where they can hit up a lawyer and be like, hey, look, this site showed up and you're on retainer, so go ahead and send them a letter. How severe the letter actually is, I don't know what to tell you, other than you don't own the DBA or any DBA associated with that, and they do. So in my opinion, like, they're already a leg up on you. Hypothetical, yeah, if you were maybe they're in a specific state and you're, incorporated out of Delaware or something like that, then I don't know exactly if you guys both have the same DBA, but you're operating. I don't know. That'd be something you'd have to ask a lawyer. But
Yeah,
when you
like
get
for
a
example, like
cease and
Sir
desist
Links-a-Lot.
letter,
There was like
mhm,
other Sir Links-a-Lots out there when we came on the scene. Um,
yeah,
there's links there. People can have like, Bob's Plumbing, bobsplumbing.com, bobsplumbing.net,
yeah.
bobsplumbing.xyz.
Hmm.
They could all be in, different places in the US or even different places in the world.
Yeah, I think, for them to really, like, if you both had the DBA, then I think for them to really say that you were ripping them off, you'd have to, like, just completely stole their branding, etc.
Yeah.
And even then, it's like, well, what exactly are they suing you for? Like, how worthwhile would it be to go through, the legal process? To attack somebody who's essentially got like a rank to rent website that's very malleable, right? Like you can hypothetical, somebody who is maybe a little bit harder to trace back to the rank to rent because they don't all use, legit owners, etc., right? Would essentially be like a web of just getting nowhere with cease and desist letters, right? So that's something to consider too. A lot of people that do rank to rent, they're they're not getting the DBAs for a lot of this stuff. And I'm not laughing and stuff because I do this. Okay, I don't even do any local SEO or anything like that. But I've seen it across the board. A lot of people that get into local, 99% of them are not doing things the legal way. And one of the reasons is because if they get a cease and desist letter and they want to pay attention to it because, they're worried about it, then what they've created is very malleable, meaning they can always 301 it, rebrand it really quickly, and, overnight it's a different brand versus people with these actual physical businesses where it's like, dude, rebranding is not an on the fly thing. It's a whole process that takes time, energy, and money, and then can really affect, previous sales, etc. So that's just something that kind of comes with the landscape of SEO, messing with domains, and then how it affects the real world as well.
Yeah, I added a little bit more to this. Ended up selling the site to them, so it worked out this time. It's a big
Solid.
corporation, so I didn't want to fight it. I didn't have the private who is, so we'll get that for next time.
Well, just a little FYI, Namecheap is my favorite registrar, always has been, but they give you free who is privacy on every order. So something to look at. But yeah, Namecheap's always been my favorite, and that's not, because they're paying us for this plug or anything, but they could because they legitimately are my favorite.
I
Just
think we
really good
actually do have
customer
a Namecheap
service,
affiliate
cheap.
thing, but it has to be
Yeah,
through the link.
we do. I don't know if we've ever gotten a sale for
Oh
it.
yeah, I've never checked it.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I would have looked at it. But yeah, that's really cool. See, and that's another thing too, is a lot of people freak out when something like this happens, but remember, there's always opportunity, right? Businesses are doing this because, they're scared of what might happen, but then at the same time, who's going to complain about an opportunity to make more money easily? You're both going to get what you want. You've already done the legwork for them. And then, hey, maybe you can even help add on other campaigns, etc. But it's really cool that you took it as an opportunity and, ended up turning profit for it.
I also want to go ahead and add in here really quick. None of this is legal advice.
No, no.
The best thing to do rather than
Legal,
consulting.
moral, nothing. We just talk about objectively what we've seen in the SEO world,
Yeah.
which is the manipulation of data sets to get things placed in search engines.
But yeah,
That's what it is.
I feel like the one place I would be really worried about this, or actually more legitimately worried, would be like in local SEO. Like, you bought a domain or whatever, it turns out, and you're using it as a rank to rent for a specific location, and they were from that location before, so you're using their name and brand in the same location they were already in before.
Yeah.
Then I would be like, I'm definitely gonna look into this. Um, yeah, not legal advice or anything. So,
No.
all right,
Solid.
let's go ahead and move on. We're gonna go ahead and take some from here. Um, don't think we need to answer any indexing ones again.
No. That's been a hot topic lately,
This
though.
is kind of just a very general question, but you gotta do this one. Is the main and only point of SEO to be number one in search engines? This is actually kind of an interesting question because, you know, I've got some friends who are not into SEO or anything, and they kind of see what I'm doing. They look at Sirlinks a lot and stuff, and they think, oh, yeah, that's kind of cool. They start kind of getting interested in SEO and trying to figure out what exactly it is. And so just to answer the question flat out, is the point of SEO to be number one in the search engines? Uh, Short answer, I would kind of say, yeah, that's the general gist of
Yeah.
it. I mean, so it's search engine optimization. You're literally, you're optimizing things for your website so they appear higher up in whatever search engine you're trying to rank on. That's the bottom line of SEO. And people, especially nowadays, people will kind of have these big answers about how, oh, well, it's actually your revenue, it's increasing your revenue or whatever. They're just tacking on more stuff to it, and it's how they sell to their clients. But when it comes down to it, SEO is ranking higher in the search engines, and everything
Yep.
else is just more of a package of the product, whatever you're selling, to your
It's all
clients.
it's all under it's all under the umbrella of marketing,
Yeah.
right? Marketing and advertising. And
Or
so,
just having an online
yeah.
business, so that
Hmm.
by getting into SEO and you're starting to do SEO, you actually start learning a lot more stuff that is actually outside the scope of SEO, like
No
anything
doubt.
on your website that has to do with converting more, or increasing conversions once they're actually on your website. That's not SEO, that's CRO, conversion rate optimization. It's a completely different ball game. But if you're doing SEO, if you're an affiliate marketer, or if you have your own local business and you're doing SEO for your website, and you're doing SEO and you're not doing CRO, you're going to be leaving some money on the table for sure. But
Yep.
if you're looking at this from let's say you're a corporation, a big corporation, and you're hiring, basically all these different people to fill these different needs that your company has. SEO, the SEOs would be concerned with ranking. Then they would have other people, other specialists, to do other things like CRO or just whatever else. And I think what happens a lot of times is the SEOs are taking more and more of these other things into their product that they're offering, which is good because you can then increase the revenue potential of any clients that you've landed, right? It's kind of like a conversation we were having with one of our mutual friends before, is he knows how to do some very basic stuff on WordPress and yada yada yada. And so yeah, he was saying like you could go and you can offer your services as a webmaster or whatever, keeping their site updated, posting content on their site, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then from there, you can upsell to, well, hey, do you want some basic SEO? Do you want some advanced SEO? Do you want some link building? Do you want some CRO? Do you want a website remodel or whatever? And these are all completely different things from the webmaster position that you initially started at. But yeah, I'm kind of just ranting, but SEO
No, you're
SEO
right.
is ranking in the search engines at its in its most basic form. Everything else is,
Yeah, but what you said is true. It's so rare that you'll find somebody who's made a career out of SEO who only wears the SEO hat. Because after you get started, once you start, messing with your own sites, seeing the opportunity you have with other clients, you're inevitably going to learn about, parts of the bigger pie, so to speak. But yeah, SEO at its base is simply about ranking optimization. So yeah, ultimate goal would be to rank number one for whatever SERP
When
positions.
friends ask me about this now, my answer's kind of changed a little bit. And so I tell them, first off, I'm like, SEO is, basically you've got a website. When people search for something on Google, you want your website to be at the top. So, we help do that because then you get more people going to your website. So that's what SEO is. But, further from that, what you end up doing, what you end up learning after you learn SEO is you learn how to make money on the internet. You learn how to have an
Yeah.
online business. And, that can be, there's just so much more that ties into that. There's not just Google, there's other ways you can get traffic, content marketing,
Right. You can be really creative.
YouTube.
You can find the different aspects that you're kind of like drawn to and then work on those. It's very rare that I think everybody gets good at every aspect involved in digital marketing or making money online. But if you get good at a handful of them and then you know how to inspect things that you expect out of the other ones that maybe you don't allocate as much time to, um, you still help paint the bigger picture of, kind of the business you're creating and operating and running, which ends up being, if I said we were just SEOs at this point,
That's kind of
yeah,
selling
it doesn't
yourself
really
short a
make
bit.
sense to me. I'm like, any given day, just operating an SEO business means you're going to be wearing countless different hats to ensure. And that's probably like with anything in digital marketing. It might be a little bit easier though if like we were to focus, if we would have gotten started in like Facebook ads or Google ads, maybe that's a little bit easier to like niche down on and be very specific with. But yeah, SEO kind of spider webs out of control.
In a good way.
Yeah, in a good way.
The more,
If you can hone in on it, because a lot of times up front, it's like there's so many different spider webs that it gets confusing and overwhelming, and then you're spread thin, and the business kind of implodes on you. And early days, I had that happen to me several times, where I thought, I had all these different things to focus on that were, really just draining my resources.
yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and do another one. Give me 1 second. Yeah, YouTube is quiet today. What's going on, YouTube viewers? No questions right now. This is the quietest
Yeah,
YouTube
there's a
stream
lot
we've
of
had in a
people
while.
watching, but no
What is
questions.
today?
Maybe we answered them all. It's been a little over a year that we've been doing this, so maybe finally all the questions have been
Yeah, I'm not
answered.
sure what's
Nick
going
and
on or
Chris
why
can retire.
YouTube is so slow today, but it's definitely one of the slower YouTube streams we've had. All right. If you had an extra 5K for a project, would you A, buy an expired domain, 3K and 2K, 60 words content? Oh, okay. So would you buy an expired domain for $3,000 and then spend $2,000 on 60,000 words of content? Or B, buy $5,000 worth, so 150,000 words of content on a fresh domain? So basically, would you spend $5,000 on an expired domain with some content, or would you just spend all that money on content on a fresh domain? I
Hmm.
know my answer. I'll let you go first. I know your answer too.
I mean, I would go with the age domain. That's what I prefer to do. Typically, when I start a project off, it's very rare that I start from a fresh domain. Or if I do want to have a fresh domain because I like the branding of something, I'm still typically, even in the first month, usually going to 301, something to its powerful and in the same niche, because it is a great way to hack at, the power behind a website. So I like to start off with an age domain. Now, that's not to say that it's automatically going to jump you in the SERPs. It's not that simple, especially anymore. But over time, as it does generate that growth, and as you do add content, it's typically going to launch you a lot faster than the new URL is.
I just want to point out.
Having,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah. Well, having said that, a lot of people also conceptualize the budget and aspects to like, well, I'm just going to take this money and then here I got the website and then I got a bunch of content. I throw it all up in a month. Budget out for longevity. Think about the project in terms of 6 months. So you've got your startup cost, right? Which is finding that age domain and getting the initial content up, right? But imagine within that budget that you've conceptualized, how it would, how the runway would be affected over, like, I would say 6 to 8 months, quite honestly, just to give myself plenty of time. And then I would budget off that, because you don't always need 60,000 words of dropped content immediately within the first month. You can kind of gradually do a little bit less, but make it space out over more time, which looks more natural. And then you can kind of see the growth of everything. Versus a lot of people, if they blow their budget right out of the gate and then can't get very much traction in month number 3 or 4, and then their budget is completely wasted, well, then they're stagnant, right? And you always, like, one of the biggest things when it comes to search engine optimization over, in my opinion, is the movement over time. And so, Google wants to see that this is a website that is continually growing, that's continually getting press, that's being talked about, that's being used, etc. Right? That's going to give you favor. Versus something that's like, it was just built out really quickly and then essentially dropped, which isn't to say that it can't work, but it's just not the preferable way, in my opinion.
I also want to point out here, they said $3,000 for an expired domain. I mean, you can definitely get expired.
That's a big budget. Yeah, for
I'll say 3,000 for like an age
domain,
that's already resonating. It's more like where I would want to be if I was going to be spending that kind of money on a domain.
I guess it just depends,
depends
because
how
like
good it is,
finding
really.
finding the right domain isn't. Oftentimes it's just like when it pops up, there it is. Like that's the one that you see that you've got a lot of opportunity with. And I've said it before, but I've bid up to just under like $15,000 for a domain before. But you have to think about it on the fly, because it's like you find it when you're hunting. And then all of a sudden, you have to weigh out the options. How rare is it that you find something like this, especially when it's niched down exactly where you want it?
15K?
Age domain, still resonating in the SERPs, had like 27,000 referring domains. It was a monster. Granted, I would have been eating with my eyes, and most likely I would have had a lot of trouble with that buy at that point in time. It wouldn't have been a well thought out plan. I think it would have worked out overall, just because of the power it would have had behind it. But yeah, you want to bite off, about what's natural for you to chew too. If you're buying a mega domain like that, and I know you're talking about buying a good amount of content, a natural amount of content to see on a big site. But if you blow your budget on a very powerful domain, but then think you're going to rank a 5-page sniper site for everything that you could imagine you want, it's typically not going to go that way for you.
Yeah, my point was just, when I'm starting to get it to domains being a bit more expensive, I definitely prefer aged over expired.
Yeah.
But I mean, for a 3K expired, you might end up being able to get some kind of monster, it would just be
if you guys have domains with over 10,000 referring domains, feel free to hit me up if you're looking to sell.
But yeah, so my answer would be the same as yours. Choice A. I'd probably just, instead of expired, I'd be looking for an age domain, something that, like you said, is resonating in the SERPs already. There's a little more surety to it. Maybe not even spend 3K on it. Basically what I look at when I would look at an age domain would be something that is as close to the niche that I'm going after as possible. That's just really clean. and it's aged, it's still resonating, it's ready to go. Uh, and then build from there. But yeah, it just all depends on what you're finding out there. Like you were saying, it's just I definitely would prefer the aged over the expired, but we're just basically getting down to the nitty gritty at that point. Anytime you're starting on a fresh domain, it just takes so much more time. Um, all the and you're gonna end up paying quite a bit more for any backlinks you're gonna have to build right out of the gates anyway. Just the time and the money. I would just definitely say option A.
Which I think that's something else that we've kind of we haven't touched on, which is just because you bought an age domain with a lot of historical backlinks going to it does not mean that you don't have to have money in your backlinking budget for the continual exposure of this campaign. You'd want to make sure that even though, because what happens naturally? A business buys out another business, then rebrands, they take over the URL, right? And there's this whole rebranding campaign. But with that typically comes exposure to the press, right? So there's, all sorts of people and blogs, et cetera, talking about what's going on here. So when I first start off a site, I like to get more aggressive than a lot of other people. And typically that's going to be involving the use of a 301 domain alongside massive amounts of press to kind of emulate an extreme buzz. And so that's, maybe a little bit more advanced, but we've talked about it in prior live feeds before too.
All right. Looks like we've actually got some questions rolling in on YouTube now. So
right at the end.
Tom says it autoplayed for him and he didn't even know it was a live stream. It's kind of funny.
Welcome.
All right. I have a 10-year-old website and acquired a much better EMD, which is an exact match domain, and want to use it instead of my current website. How much juice will I be able to transfer from my current website, and how would you do it? As the resident 301 master in the house, we'll let our prodigy Nick Altamore take this question.
Well, we've talked about this quite a few times before, but we'll just go ahead and go over it again. Basically,
so he's got his 10-year-old website and he just got an EMD and he wants to use the EMD now instead because it's an EMD. So for anyone,
I thought he wanted to 301 the EMD.
Well, so
instead of my current website, how much juice will I be able to transfer from my? Oh yeah, sure. So you'll be able to transfer basically all the juice.
I just want to explain to anyone not aware of what's going on here. An EMD is an exact match domain, meaning that his most important keyword or one of his most important keywords is the actual name of. So it'd be like besthoustonplumber.com or something like that.
Yeah.
And so he's got this. He has his existing website before. And he just found this EMD, they're really powerful for ranking. So now he wants to use that one instead because it's got the keyword in the domain name. So it could end up working better for him if he's able to make the switch. All right, go ahead.
So just in general, doing the 301 is going to transfer all the juice either way. So it doesn't matter which one you want to use as the client-facing value, right? So you could either use the EMD, 301 your old one to the MD, or vice versa. And you're still going to get the same reaction. The things that I would do to influence that positive reaction between the 301, if there's a lot of inner pages that used to exist that had some backlinks going to them, that had solid content on them, then when you 301 recreate. Huh?
I was going to say, in this case, since it's his site that he's going to be 301ing, he'll probably just rebuild the entire site, page for page.
And if that's the case, then it'd just be 301 and then, just transfer the current site and then rebrand however you want. Or just use the URL and then the branding can all stay the same. I've seen a lot of people do that as well, right? So you've got a lot of options, but long story short, the answer to your question is yes, you will be transferring all the backlink value of that site to the new site that you've 301 to. But on the same token, that doesn't mean that reaction is going to be immediate, right? So like I said, ways to influence that are if you've got a bunch of inner pages, hypothetical, and I know like what Chris is talking about is probably more what you're talking about, but just as far as talking about general rules of 301ing, the domain that you 301 to the one that you're going to use, if it had any pre-existing power going to inner pages, etc., it's better to rebuild those pages, in my opinion, or find ones that you can 301 directly to that resonate, very similarly in aspects to what the permalinks look like. So the slug behind. So if you were best Houston plumber / I don't know, maybe it had an informational article on cleaning your pipes. But then you've got a on of course Chris is gonna chuckle. God, it even took me it just took me a second. But yeah, so best way to clean your pipes or whatever. Old informational article, you've 301 to that domain. But you don't really want to build that page out, even though it could be useful. An option too would be maybe you've got clogged pipe service. You could 301 that old URL to that new one, etc. But making use of inner pages is going to help kind of connect that 301 to the new asset. And other ways to ensure that you get positive movement with your 301, or to make sure that the 301 that you're using, so in this case the EMD, it's better to have it indexed. So if it's an expired domain and it doesn't exist in index currently, my opinion is to build a really just whatever 5-page sniper site just to get it indexed, or even just putting it on a landing page for a couple of months typically is enough to get it indexed. But that's typically where I like to start from, is having that asset already indexed.
I'm gonna give like a summary here, and
yeah,
so
there you go.
Go ahead and just make sure I'm saying everything right. So he's got his old website and it's got the EMD. He wants to transfer over to the EMD because, of course, it's an EMD. Help him ranking. So if the EMD, before 301ing it, first you want to, if it's an expired, you want to make sure that it's back and it's resonating in the SERPs. It's indexed. So go ahead and throw up a 5-10 page site or whatever on it, just to get it kind of Google knows it's there. Then basically what you'd want to do is, I'm assuming he's going to want to just rebuild his entire site on it, URL for URL. So you could copy the site over and then go ahead and change all the branding if you wanted to, or you could leave the branding like you were saying. But anyway, you're copying the site over, URL for URL, and then you're going to 301 redirect every single URL on the old site to its new URL. So every URL on the old site to every URL on the new site, like one for one.
So however, the way you're talking about doing it, essentially you just have the exact match domain, and then you'd just be making a copy of your current website and 301ing that URL, and then just rebuilding, and automatically everything would automatically build to the right permalink, right? Because that's how it's automatically built, right? So you're just transferring. However, let's say you go in the opposite direction, where you want to use the EMD but 301 it to your branded domain.
Well, let's answer his question though.
Okay.
So we make sure the EMD, if it isn't expired, we make sure it's indexed, it's there. We copy the site over, URL for URL, then we 301 every single URL over to its corresponding new URL. And then
well, but technically if you rebuild the site, so the way he's doing it, it would just automatically be built out, so you don't have to 301 anything. You're 301ing the old branded domain to the new one, but since you're rebuilding that exact site, it would automatically populate the permalinks that you'd be missing if you 301 the other way around.
Wait, sorry, I'm not following you.
Hypothetical.
Are we doing more hypothetical, or are we doing his?
We've got exact match domain, right? we've got branded domain. Branded domain already has the website built on it, right? So all the permalinks for all the inner pages, et cetera, are already, they're built out. So then you go in and you use a backup downloader or something to download a backup of that site.
Yeah.
Then you're going to 301 that site to the exact match domain, right? And then you're just going to use that backup and you're going to upload it to all the permalinks are just already going to exist, right? There's no need to 301. Except
that's just for like the WordPress copy. Wouldn't you still want to actual 301 every URL from the old site over?
Well, no, because they'd already be built, right?
But you want the link juice to flow over then.
Right, but they'd already be built. The permalinks would already exist.
Yeah, but you want to 301, I don't know.
Oh, from the original URL. Yeah, or if you, sorry, I feel like we've been confusing. If you want to make it real easy, just add a plugin for 404 to similar permalink. And that'll definitely make things a lot easier.
Just do this. Copy it over and then 301 every single URL to the new URL. You're gonna be good. You're gonna have the highest chance of no problems.
It's probably like a 10-page local site, and we've already it's like we're talking about it like it's like 600 pages.
But anyway,
sorry, man.
Yeah. So get the expired index if it's expired. Otherwise, copy the site over, the WordPress copy or whatever, or just rebuild it, however you want to do that. Then 301 every URL, and then it's going to take some time. It might happen quickly. It might take a little more time than that. You're gonna have to keep an eye on it. But yeah, how long would you say to give it to actually for the new site to take over and the new site to then start resonating? Like, let's say it's having some problems and it's not working for a while. How long would you give it before you start to say, well, hey, maybe we should go back to the old one?
So
something's not right here.
Thing is, whenever I'm doing something like this, I'm just based on the domain that I found and how I know how to source them. I know I've picked a good domain, so I can trust that the value of that domain is, something that I want to use. But then I'm continually, doing content. I'm continually adding backlinks, etc. So my campaign doesn't just stop once I find the domain, 301 everything, and get started. If anything, it's just getting started. So at that point, I just am assuming, based on what I know how to source in my history with SEO, that the domain I've, found and the backlinks that it has are going to resonate over time. But as far as being able to isolate that as the variable that's going to increase my rankings over time, it's not something that I can do.
More so asking because what the case could be, for example, that it's a local client and you're doing this thing for the local client. And after some time, maybe that 301's not
3
working,
months.
and they're saying, well, where are my rankings? Like, where's my business? You've ruined my business now.
Right, but see, that's the thing. If it's for a client, then I would hope that there's a continual SEO budget, right? And then this 301 was purchased using part of that budget with the extension of a campaign going on month to month, right? Because it's not really that natural, again, for a business to take over another business and then for there to be no press about it. Having said that, I think
they could just decide to rebrand, new website?
Yeah, that's true too. And so based on that, I'd give it up to 3-4 months to start kind of resonating for the search that you'd expect it to resonate for, based on the assumed value of the website that you got.
Gotcha.
So
normally, wouldn't you like to see it happen quite a bit quicker than that, though?
Not really in recent times. You'd like to see that happen, but I wouldn't say that it was a dud until a few months out. It's even weird that some of the authority sites that I have that I've been building out that use 301s that I've repurposed old inner pages to these 301s. It's been months that I work on them. And I can't say that I'm focused on them as far as sending backlinks to these inner pages, etc. But I just saw one that's been up for 6 months, didn't really have any traction. Meanwhile, I get auto ranks for more niche down type of articles on that particular website, so I know, it's got good values. But whenever it's a little bit obscure or something, like I noticed that out of nowhere, all of a sudden I'm ranking top 3 positions. But this article's been up like, like I said, like 6 months. So that's going to be different than like a local site. But yeah, to keep it simple, I'd say, 3 to 4 months to kind of see how things move.
A different way because normally when we're 301ing, we're doing something very different. We're just taking a domain and we say, hey, we want this juice on our big website now, so we're just whatever, we're pushing that juice over like that. Whereas completely basically just a new website for your already existing site, just trying to get that all transferred over, basically just a little bit of a different way than we normally do things.
If you're still there and you're just crushed with confusion after this verbal assault that happened to you, feel free to give us any other questions based on what we just said that we can clarify, and we'll try and make it a little bit more clear.
All right. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next one. Another MLB question. With your managed link building service, how would you likely handle a $1,000 budget for sites in the 50 to 70 DR range that attract links naturally, but could use some help on competitive keywords?
Nice.
How we link in for managed link building, it really just depends on what exactly is going on with the site. I'm not really going to be able to answer this question here on stream. As far as this is all something that's answered in the application process. If you're interested in our managed link building program, go ahead and go to the MLB landing page and fill out the application fully. And the part of the process is they tell you exactly what our basic roadmap will look like for building links to your site. But it's gonna just the DR range doesn't really tell me much about what we'd be doing for it. But in general, if you just want a real quick answer, even it's going to depend. It's going to depend like what what their current link profile looks like and their link distribution as far as what pages are too heavy and not too heavy. What their current anchor profiles look like. If there's too much that we can't answer on this.
I could probably answer a little bit about it though.
Go for it.
So, okay, hypothetical, right? Like in perfect scenario, we're talking about what it sounds like is a white hat authority site or something, white hat-ish, more white hat. Because 50 to 70 DR is a massive site, right? And it's rather hard to manipulate DR the same way you would like DA or something like that. Not to say that you can't do it, but hypothetical, right? This is a big site, authority site, 70 DR, 50 DR to 70 DR rather. And it's got a bunch of organic keywords. And like you said, it gets backlinks naturally every month, right? So that's an excellent jumping off point because it means that essentially what you're saying is you need fine tuning and tailoring, right? Like the overall picture of the growth of the site is already happening naturally. So that's beautiful because it enables you to manipulate a little bit easier with the backlinks. Like Chris and I talk about it a lot. When we get started on new campaigns, the objective is typically, for the infancy of the project, to focus our energy on building out the overall authority value of that site. And then it's going to be real easy, or much easier rather, to sort of inject these tailored articles specific to certain SERPs and use much less energy in the form of backlinks to get them ranked, because the overall authority of that site, essentially what happens is when you get to that tier of website, Google's going to just start placing you in a bunch of SERPs, like maybe not in the top 3 positions, but on page 1, or at least it's going to start trying you on page 1 for competitive terms, right? And so then it's a lot easier to use less backlinks going to inner pages. And if you're really, running a legitimate, huge website that's getting a good amount of press every month, then sometimes that entire backlink budget can be used to go to inner pages, especially if you're talking about a site that's got like, let's say 5,000 plus articles, you've already got 1,000 plus RD.
Yeah, so let's
you get an extra 15 to 100 RD every month, right? Like naturally, then you're really like the stage is set for you to be able to inject very tailored minimal amounts of backlinks to get more out of what they're going to do.
Yeah, so let's make some assumptions here. We're a high authority site, so it's got a bunch of backlinks. It's getting a bunch of links naturally, so we're going to assume it has a really natural backlink profile. It's got a good amount of homepage links. It's got a bunch of natural anchors. So these are all assumptions that we're making, right? It's high authority, mean it's already out there. It's already ranking for a lot of stuff really well. It's probably got a bunch of stuff in, past position 5 on page 1. It probably ranks for that pretty easily, and then you're just trying to push them up the rest of the way. If that's the case, and then you start up MLB, we'll be able to go in and be a lot more aggressive, basically. We'll be able to use a lot more exact match anchors. We'll be able to hit a lot more inner pages, like you were just saying, and we'll just be able to a lot more aggressively go after specific keywords rather than a site that has a lower authority, that maybe doesn't have the most natural backlink profile, isn't already ranking well for a bunch of stuff. But yeah, we're just making a bunch of assumptions at this point. But I mean, I would say, they're probably pretty good assumptions given that it's, got a high DR and it's getting a bunch of links naturally.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably pretty safe to assume that.
Well, and so based off the $1,000 budget, if if everything is perfect like we were talking about, then our bread and butter would be niche edits, guest posts, for the most part, and then sparingly
high authority edits and guest posts.
Yeah, using PBNs here and there. But yeah, that would be bread and butter.
Cool. All right. Looks like we got another one on YouTube.
We're over time.
All right, we'll make this one the last one.
All right.
All right. Yeah, I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened with YouTube and why seems like we didn't start getting questions on YouTube or really even many viewers till a little bit later in the stream. I'm not really sure why that happened. All right. So I used a tool called Mangools for keyword research. Should I target the keywords with low competition, so it's 20 to 27, with a relatively good volume of 1,000 monthly searches? I have a new domain. So I'm not really familiar with Mangools, but usually, even if it's telling you the competition is low, the fact that it has 1,000 monthly searches, I would say is probably too high if you're asking this question. I would say you probably want to go for something with even lower competition than that. What were you about to say, Nick?
Well, Mangools would not be my favorite tool. And B, even on my favorite tools, like Chris said, I don't focus any energy on competition metrics unless I'm taking a broad view at tons of keywords that then I want to manually look into.
I'm not really familiar with Mangools, so I'm just kind of looking while you talk.
Oh, right on. So where I would actually go with this question is to take that research that you did on Mangools, take that keyword or set of keywords, and then we've got 2 articles on keyword research that'll help you look into those broader terms a little bit more closely and get a better idea as to what the competition of that keyword is. Because the fact of the matter is, while competition metrics for specific keywords can be a good indicator, oftentimes you'll find that they're not really telling you what you need to know about entering that particular SERP. And that's because these are all just made up proprietary ideas of what this developer thought Google was going to want to see in a SERP at any particular time, right? So it's constantly changing as well. The SERPs are constantly changing. So what we advocate is making sure that you are manually checking and manually digging into these keywords versus trusting third-party metrics. And again, we've got, I think, 2 articles that I know of and probably countless videos on how to do this as well. I need to take the time to go through our videos and put a sort of table of contents together on all the stuff that we've covered, make sort of a free course, and then that'll probably help with a lot of this stuff too.
Yeah. I guess we do show this a lot, but I won't show it fully because we do have an article
Yeah,
and stuff
go
on
for
this.
it.
But I just want to show a couple things real quick over here. So yeah, just for example, you're in here and you're in Mangles and you're looking, they show you, they got the keyword difficulty down right here, and then it's got the search volume and all that stuff. And this image is probably just made for marketing purposes, so it might not be the best example or whatever. But just to this is the keyword difficulty for this search term. SEO services is 38, which would be low or whatever, or not super high. But anyone that knows this keyword, I mean, this is going to be an extremely competitive keyword.
Yeah.
And 10,000 search volume is massive. Even 1,000 search volume for someone that's newer to SEO with a brand new site, 1,000 search volume keyword, it's going to be very hard for you to do.
There's not many thousand search keywords that exist where people aren't going after it. It's worth it. That value. It's there. The value's there.
And so just to show you really quick, we're over here on Google now. One tool I like to use a lot is called Keywords Everywhere. It used to be free. It's really cheap now. Anyway, it's just right here. It's telling me right here, the search volume for this is 40,000 a month. And now we're coming in, and what I would also do is I would turn on Mozbar, and I would just go ahead and I'll look at, or you don't need Mozbar, you could use Ahrefs. You could just plug each of these sites in and just see what their authority is. What's the authority of this site? Is the DA or the DR like 50, or is it like 10, or is it like 15? Something a little bit lower.
Yeah, are there entry points?
And so you basically be looking at the authority of these sites on whatever, it could be Ahrefs that you're looking up on, it could be Moz, whatever. Look at the authority of these sites and say, is it reasonable for me to think that I can outrank them? And what everybody knows is that for this keyword, SEO services, even though it's saying here that it's low, if you come over here and you look at the authority of these sites, they're going to be very, very, very high. And a new site is not going to outrank these things in a year or 2 years or maybe even 5 years. It's going to take you considerable time and effort to get into this. So yeah, just to kind of go back to your question, just to kind of go back to your question, I can't really comment on the Mangles scores because I'm not really familiar with them. I wouldn't look at those scores at all. I know I'm making this maybe a little more harder on you, but I don't trust these kind of scores at all. We, like Nick was saying, go in and look at it manually. Look, what are the authority of these sites? If you don't have a paid subscription to Moz or Ahrefs, you can get the Moz.
Moz is free.
Moz toolbar, or whatever it's called. It's a Google Chrome plugin. You can get it 100% for free, and you turn it on, and then when you do a search like this, it'll when you do a search like this, it'll tell you the DA, which is the authority of every site on here, just by looking at the SERP. You don't even have to click on them or search for anything. It's completely free, the Moz toolbar. Yeah, so I wouldn't pay attention to Mangles. You find a keyword, I would go look at the SERP yourself with something like Mozbar, just get a quick little judgment of it. And yeah, if you're at a brand new website and you're kind of new to SEO, I wouldn't be going for 1,000 monthly searches at all. I'd be looking more like 100 or 200, less than 200 monthly searches for the keywords I'd be going after first. If you can find stuff that's like 20 or 50 even, or even 0 can make sense.
If you know people are typing it in, right? Because Ahrefs or Mangles or whatever you use, it's not going to have all the data for these smaller SERPs.
Yeah, 1,000 is high. So yeah, that's my summary is don't look at the Mangles scores, or you could use it as a starting point, but then you want to go check yourself manually with something like Mozbar. You want to make sure there's some low authority sites on there. Because your site, being a brand new site, your authority is going to be like 0, and a authority 0 site generally is not going to outrank authority 50 or higher site. So yeah, you'd be looking for low authority, something like, 20 or less. But yeah, and then you're basically going to need a bunch of backlinks to rank anything, to beat anything higher than whatever your authority is, to make your authority higher. But yeah, definitely check out our other article. We have an article on low competition research. I'll go ahead and link that right now as well. So it's a lot low competition. Here we go. But yeah, this article that I'm linking right now will definitely it goes over everything we were just talking about with keywords everywhere and the Moz bar, and I think we even walk through. I think there's a video on there as well you could watch, and we really walk through exactly how to do the exact tactic we're doing, and yeah, hope that helps. Anything else to say, Nick?
No, that's good.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, like there's one more article too, actually, if you want to take it a little further, which would be the using Google operators for keyword research.
Keyword operators. All
There you go.
untitled keyword. Okay.
And I think we got video for that too. But basically, if you look into everything we wrote in those two articles, you'll have a good idea of different things you can do to gauge competition a little bit better than a generalized kind of third-party metric.
You are welcome, Shaksham. All right. That's going to be it for today, guys. Thanks for showing up and asking your questions. Hopefully, our answers helped you out a bit and weren't too long-winded. We do tend to go on tangents because it's so hard to answer, everything concretely. Everyone makes fun of, the meme in SEO is, well, it depends. But it's true, it does depend. It depends on so much stuff, and it's just hard to give straight, concise answers and a lot of, based on limited information.
There's a lot of different ways to do some of these things, right? Everybody kind of finds their specific recipes that work for them. I mean, they all kind of follow some sort of guideline, but there's still a lot of opportunity for creativity in the ways that you build your sites and rank them in the SERPs. So
yeah,
don't forget to like, comment, subscribe.
Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube, guys. It helps us out a lot. Be sure to join our Facebook group, SEO Roundtable. That's where all the action really goes down. You can ask questions every day. We post helpful stuff every day as well as being subscribed to our newsletter on our website. Yeah, that's it, guys. Thanks for coming out, and we will see you next week, same time, same place. Adios.